This side, Rahul Magan here is a Group Chief Executive Officer, Treasury Consulting, and also a venture capitalist. Standing today on 4th October 2019, practically at 2 a.m. in the morning, we are going to be shooting a pretty important video about a topic, which is that how our paid and sold media has reached to a level when the right information has stopped starting flowing into the system. Today the entire media is busy into discussing the part that the PMC bank is basically on the verge of the collapse, and PMC bank actually collapsed. We also need to discuss that how come PFC Bank basically able to give almost 6,500 crores of the loan book only to one company and violated all RBI guidelines. Well, we very well know that the head of that institution is having a stake with the HDIL, which is a real estate company. Everybody in this country is on sale. A local person, when he goes to bank to opening a bank account, he needs to give PAN card, Aadhaar card, ID card, income tax card, this card, Y card, Z card. Almost every card this person has to give. But when the bank PMC they are allowed to open 21,000 fake accounts to cover their loans. The management of the company is having a stake in the real estate company, and more importantly, that real estate company 110% siphoned off the money because they have not lost it and declared bankruptcy. At the end, I assure you that nothing would happen. The senior management of the bank will scot-free. The management of that real estate company will pay the amount hefty and as a bribe, and nothing would happen. The ultimate loser would be the investor, who will continue to stand in the line and continue to face the dogma of our institution. Well, anyways, this was the Achhe Din which everybody was waiting for, and this Achhe Din came. But I am not going to be talking about these Achhe Din, as I know that more Achhe Din is on the way. I am telling you, in the next 3 to 4 years, the way Indian economy is heading, the way we are moving, it's actually moving towards a crash. And I might not be surprised to know that by 2024, the difference between Indian economy and Brazilian economy would be zero. So India, Argentina, Brazil, Venezuela, they are almost at the same pace. Because paid and sold and incompetent media can only save a country up to a certain level, but after that not. But anyways, this is not what we are discussing today. We are here to discuss a pretty important topic which this bloody media, I'm sorry to say, but this bloody media not been able to let you know. Whenever a bank die or declare bankrupt, the only issue is not the loan the bank sanctioned. The only issue is not the total amount of deposit the bank received, which in case of PMC Bank is roughly 12,000 crores. In case of Yes Bank, which is also declining, but our media is protecting Yes Bank heavily. Did you guys notice that everyone is talking about the Yes Bank in the media, but no one talking about Rana Kapoor? Did you notice that? How can that happen? That, see, this is our constitution, this is our media, and this is our system, our investigation agencies, that everybody know that Rana Kapoor was at the helm of the bank for a very considerable amount of time. He quitted smartly, just like Chanda Kochar. He quitted smartly, and once he quitted, the bank started declining because he was pretty well aware of the fact that now whatever frauds and all these red flags he left, bank has to decline. Since the quit of the Rana Kapoor, majority of the senior management has already quitted. I know several people personally, they quitted Yes Bank, to be honest. And more importantly, every day there are two kind of news coming in the media. One is about the decline of the Yes Bank. Another is how smartly Rana Kapoor is able to sell its shares in the market. And more importantly, he is getting the buyer also. So look at the buyer who knows almost everything, who knows that the bank is declining, who knows that things are moving towards mess, who knows that the bank has underreported the non-performing asset, who knows almost everything. Irrespective of that, the Rana Kapoor is getting the buyer. And how smartly our media is saving Rana Kapoor, that not a single media, these two newspapers which I read daily and another newspaper, they have not even questioned Rana Kapoor credibility as a banker in the Yes Bank. This is how our media actually plays. Well, I have really started feeling that our media, the people sitting in our media, they are not only getting the salaries from the taxpayer money, but also they are getting a very huge amount of money from these corporate offices, as so that they can save themselves. You read any newspaper, Economic Times, Live Mail, Financial Express, Business Standard, Hindu, The Times of India, read any newspaper. No one dared to question Rana Kapoor on the first page of the newspaper and say that why did you quit? And why immediately after you quit the things went to the mess? And no one ever questioned Rana Kapoor that why are you selling your stake at a much faster pace and a low share prices? Is it something you are hiding, or is it you have hidden something in the book? Our media is totally paid. But anyways, if we come back to the topic, if we see the decline of the banks like ICICI, Yes Bank, Axis, and now the PMC Bank, and the number of cooperative banks, the biggest issue is not the loan book. The biggest issue is not that the management of most of the cooperative banks and also the big banks like ICICI, Yes and all, they are prone to few corporates. You know what corporates I'm talking, but I cannot tell the name. The biggest issue is the contingent exposure these banks are carrying. I know that majority of the people, those who are watching this video, they do not know how contingent exposure works. And I'm damn sure that majority of the people, those who are watching this video, even do not know what is the difference between contingent exposure and contingent consideration. Well, I am also a faculty member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and while delivering various sessions at Institute when I was free, but now not much, I can assure you that even chartered accountants do not know how to do the accounting of an earnout. In fact, if you look at IND-AS, which is Indian Accounting Standard, which is copycat of the IFRS, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India forget to explain its member how to do the earnout. Basically, even today, the Big Fours, the people are completely reliant on the Big Fours as far as the valuation of the earnout accounting is concerned. So similarly, chartered accountants who are the auditors, and they do not know how exactly the contingent exposure is planned. Now, when these big banks default, which is Yes Bank, ICICI, PMC, which is cooperative, and all other banks, Lehman Brothers in US and multiple, the biggest question arises is the contingent exposure. Now, let me give you a simple example. PMC is a cooperative bank. Now, PMC must be having a lot of clients, those who are importers, right? Maybe they are not as big as Reliance, Adani's, Ambani's. They might be a smaller company, but they would be importing small time material. So they need letter of credit. That letter of credit is actually issued by the PMC bank. I know that PMC is a small cooperative bank, so definitely don't have the credit limits from the big boys like Goldman and all. They have a pretty small time credit limits given to by the NATs. In our language, NATs means the public sector banks. Based upon these credit limits, they issue the letter of credit. Well, I know that they cannot issue bank guarantees, maybe very small time. Well, one thing I'm sure, they cannot issue SPLC, standby letter of credit. While in the case of Yes Bank, the standby letter of credit is also a concern. These banks issue these letter of intents, guarantees, credit agreements to their customers. Depend, sometimes importers, sometimes exporter. When a bank defaults, these credit agreements come into the light, as majority of these credit agreements are discount. Example, I am a small term importer who makes plastic. I took plastic because currently the entire attention of our media is on the single use plastic. Jobs, inflation, economy, recession, bank frauds, IFLS, forget all. So let's take single use plastic. I make single use plastic. Now this single use plastic which I actually make, I sell them, for that I need to import some raw material, assuming. Now I import raw material from Russia, from China. Now the raw material which I import, the Chinese party needs the letter of credit. Now that Chinese party, I'm just giving you an example, that Chinese party will get letter of credit from PMC Bank. Or let's make this example pretty simple. I need to import this material. That material I take it from a Gujarat based trader. That Gujarat based trader is actually having some facility at China. So let's make it case simple. I am a single use plastic maker, something whatever you assume. I need raw material which I imported from Gujarat based trader, and that Gujarat based trader will buy from China. Let's make it simple. And every month I import 1 crore, which is 1 CR, right? 1 CR worth of 10 million worth of, I would say, the material. Now I need to give the LC because I am importer, but what if I default? That LC I will take it from PMC bank because I am having a relationship with the PMC. Now once I take this LC, I will give this to the Gujarat trader whose name is, you name any name, say Mr. Patel. I just taking a simple example, take it Mr. Patel. Now Mr. Patel got the LC, and assuming this LC is a site LC, usance LC, just for a minute, of 90 days, and whatever the credit period is there, that me and Mr. Patel agreed, so not to worry about. Now what happens that Mr. Patel will get this LC, which is letter of credit, and Mr. Patel will give this LC, which is letter of credit, to I would say to his bank. Suppose this bank is SBI, to get a discount. SBI will get this discount because SBI know that PMC is a cooperative bank, so ultimately the money is saved. SBI will get this discount. Once SBI will get this discount, actually the ultimate responsibility will come on the SBI, right? Because now initially what happened, that if that person who basically issued the LC, if that person not paid, the bank PMC will pay. But PMC issued LC in the favor of Mr. Patel, who is an exporter, while Mr. Patel do not want to wait for 90 days as exporters are always short of capital. He intend to get this discount. Well, there is a big difference between discounting and monetization, but for most of them it is same. For most of the people in the globe, discounting and monetization are not different, but they are practically very different. Now what happened that when the SBI got that LC, if PMC bank defaults, then SBI is gone because the entire money is gone. I agree. Monetization is subject to recourse, non-recourse and sharing. Generally it is non-recourse, but in a lot of cases it is recourse. But countries like Singapore, they have moved one level higher, which is sharing. I am sure that the CFA, Certified Financial Analyst, and FRM, which is Faltu Risk Management, they will surely be teaching their kids about how sharing monetization work, at least in the next 10 years. Because degrees like Faltu Risk Management, FRM, even do not know what is an exact difference between recourse and non-recourse practically. Theoretically, the difference is that you take some collateral, but how this collateral actually work, how the haircut methodology work, that nobody knows. So ultimately it's a contingent exposure for PMC bank. And let's assume PMC defaulted. Now the entire loss is not of PMC. Now there are 3 people, those who lost. 4 in fact. One is the depositor. The depositor, me, who invested 100 crores in PMC. Now say 2 crore in PMC. I deposited PMC on the trust of the government, right? That on the trust of the RBI. Anyways, it's only on the piece of paper because the credit guarantee they offer is of 1 lakh rupees. And that too, once you go to court, the litigation will handle, the court will order and everything, which takes substantial time, and history suggests that in case of one of the cooperative bank it took 17 years. So if PMC will not pay, maybe God forbid, the depositors need to take a haircut or they need to wait for several years. And I don't know how many depositors would be alive after 17 years, God knows. 4 people will get a hit. One is me, who is a depositor. Another is the importer, because the importer, basically the producer of single-use plastic, he is having credit limit from PMC bank, while PMC is giving because he is his final customer. PMC having credit limits might be from different banks. Now the question is, if PMC defaults, then this importer will stop getting the material from everybody. The third hit would be the SBI, because SBI already discounted that LC. Now most of the discount is non-recourse. For a minute, if it is a recourse, then 4th party who would get the hit is the exporter, because he got the LC of a bank who has defaulted. So the client can also default. So ultimately the contingent exposures is going to get hit pretty hard. But if you look at any report from Reserve Bank of India, any report, you would get to know that they never publish about the contingent exposure. Somehow we got an article about contingent exposure, and let me read for you. Some banks have voiced their concern to Reserve Bank of India over the maturing letter of credit issued by the failed PMC bank. The total contingent liability on or off balance sheet of the bank is 1721 crores, roughly 1700 crores, and out of which about 176 crore issued by the cooperative bank and discounted by the another bank's bill or shortly due. Now the moral of the story is that on these 1700 crores of contingent exposure which the PMC have, now from the very first day the media is saying that the total loan book is closer to roughly 10,000, roughly closer to that. They are not talking about the contingent exposure. None of the reports from Reserve Bank of India talks about the contingent exposure, and the matter getting shameful when in case of Yes Bank, people and the media are busy enough talking about the share price. Several YouTube videos being published who get thousands of responses, thousands of views, sometimes millions of views, and where people discussing share price. If I start making a video on the share price, I will get 2 million hits every video, but I don't do that because I'm not a hit crazy person. Do I know how much contingent exposure Yes Bank have? Your answer would be yes. You look at their balance sheet. When the same bank underreported their annual report, when the same bank understated their non-performing asset, how credible are the contingent exposure by the bank? Do we have one report published on a quarterly note by the so-called Universal Central Bank, Reserve Bank of India, which states the contingent exposure of the Indian banks? For Reserve Bank, it took almost 2 years, roughly more than 2 years, to count the demonetization note. And if today you ask Reserve Bank of India to give the bifurcation of the contingent exposure, which is LC, BG, SBLC, SBG and all, and tell in the public space, I'll let you know, as RBI needs another 3 to 5 years to get this collated. And we are not sure whether the information the bank is giving is right or wrong. We don't know about that. So what is the moral of the story? Our media is very smart, and even in this article, which is today's article, people talking about LC. Do you know there are 7 to 8 different type of LC? They even do not have the data in which they can give sequence wise number of the contingent exposure. I have not seen a single media report who talked about the line item wise contingent exposure of the bank. I was reading one of the article in which I got to know that India is having roughly 1750 cooperative banks, 1750. So I need to use my calculator if I assume that one cooperative bank is having 1000 crores of contingent exposure. Now, if this bank is having 1700 crores, assume one bank having 1000 crores, so 1700 into 1000. 17 lakh crore is the total contingent exposure. On a tentative note, the country is sitting at 17 lakh crores. And according to Reserve Bank of India, the total non-performing asset of this country is closer to 13 lakh crores, which I think is at least 30 to 40% overstated. Did anyone dare to come to you and see that the real problem is in case of Yes Bank, the Rana Kapoor and all, and the PMC, and the number of such failures like ICICI and Axis is not the exposure which is on balance sheet, rather which is off balance sheet? Do we have one report from our regulator which confirms how much is the total off balance sheet exposure we are having? And more importantly, the media is media interested to let you know? A lot of people have asked me that where do you see India? I am always straight that I see India as a defaulting country by 2024, because you read these newspapers. Actually, when I read newspaper, when I wanted to relax, because I know that the information which I get in the newspaper is fake. The quality of the education which is being imparted in the newspaper is absolutely poor. It's a third class newspaper which we are reading. If we go to Singapore, we read the Business Times, the Straits Times, the level of quality of the education is pretty high, which I read online. What is the moral of the story? The total non-performing asset according to Reserve Bank is 13 lakh crore. The total contingent exposure, I assume the 1700 cooperative bank have 1000 crore exposure each. I know there are multiple cooperative banks who have more than 1000 crore. So tentatively on an average note it is 17 lakh crores. So isn't a time bomb is waiting for us? Are we serious? Is Reserve Bank is serious? Our media is serious? Are we serious about our future? We don't. Because we are busy watching Big Boss 13. We are busy following the Twitter of whatever 10 to 12 or whatever participants that are joining Big Boss. We are busy watching who is fighting with whom in Big Boss. We are busy following the Trump on his tweets for the Chinese war. We are busy having movies, but we do not know that as a country we are sitting on a time bomb which will explode, which will surely explode. Day or so, year or so, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it would explode. And once it would happen, then no one can save the country. Then I hope you remember Punjab National Bank and Bank of Baroda scandal when the RBI banned letter of intent. And that letter of intent hit almost every corporate, small and medium term enterprises. And several of medium term enterprises were even collapsed. But the media not reported that. If this time bomb will start and explode, then millions and millions of the small and medium term enterprises and in fact the large corporates will also collapse because LC structure or the trade finance structure which covers LC, bank guarantee, SPLC will fail. But let it happen. Then there is one committee which RBI will form. This committee would have a people like I forget it, the Samiran Chaturvedi or Sajid from JP Morgan. Those who do not know about credit exposure, those who do not know about CDS curve, those who do not know the difference between contingent exposure and contingent consideration, those who do not know how to measure the haircut, but they would form this committee, they would get all benefits, air travel and everything. They will give the report the way they give the report to the Indian rupee, but I am damn sure even after 1 month of the BIS trial survey, no one would have read this thoroughly except me. This is how we work, and I would like to sum up my video with one question, and let me check what's your knowledge about the credit guarantees and all. How many type of SBLC we have worldwide? SBLC stand for Standby Letter of Credit. My simple question is that how many types of standby letter of credit we have worldwide and how many type of them. So if we have X count of standby letter of credit, how many of them are actually available in India? So suppose the total count is 20. Don't worry, it is not 20. Suppose the total count is 20. 20 types of standby letter of credit is there. And out of 20 type of standby letter of credit, how many of them are actually available in India? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or all 20? If you give this answer, I will courier you a pen which is made in Singapore, a very beautiful pen. Very beautiful pen. With this, we thank you very much, and I really thankful to the media, I really thankful to the television that the job which they are not doing, I am doing. But I am not a paid speaker. Neither I am paid by any corporate house. So we continue to raise the voice, we continue to let you know. Irrespective of the fact that there are a lot of thankless people, those who even don't give a good remark on our YouTube videos but giving us a WhatsApp call and say that we want this consultancy or this consultancy, but that doesn't make sense to us. With this, we thank you very much. You know my mobile number, which is +91 and Indian code 9899242978. You know our fixed income platform www.fixedincome.global. Have a great time and talk soon.